to Cozy Reviews. You suggest it, I review it, and welcome back to the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise review. Today we are taking a look at the 7th film in the series as we take a look at Wes Craven's New Nightmare from 1994.
Market, common mark. In doing a film about my nightmares as I'm dreaming them, in order for the movie to continue, it was dependent on me having more nightmares. Well, fortunately, I did. I'm a little frightened by what Wes may have tapped into. I frankly felt that it was over when we did the final nightmare.
In a town where movies go over schedule and directors go over budget, something far more evil is out of control.
The world of horror film suffered its own terror today as two of Hollywood's best-known special effects technicians were found dead.
Part of the theme of the movie is becoming like part of the making of the movie.
Can you come with me in my dreams?
I think that only happens in the movies.
What happens when the story dies? The evil is set free. Now that the films have ended, the genie's out of the bottle. That's what the nightmares are telling me, and that's what I'm writing.
This is still a script we're talking about, right, Wes?
We've decided to cross over out of films into our reality. The only way to stop him is to make another movie.
Oh my God. The bad man's getting awful close.
You're gonna have to make a choice.
What kind of choice?
Whether or not you're willing to play Nancy one last time. Cut the effect!
Isn't there somebody who can stop him?
That person's you.
Why me?
It was you that gave Nancy her strength. Nancy.
Where's my gun?
Alright, I'm gonna get this out of the way real quick. Wes Craven's New Nightmare is not a Freddy Krueger movie. It's not really a Nightmare on Elm Street movie either. It may be considered being part of that series, but it is not one of those movies. You're wanting to continue this, all it goes from the fact this is not a Nightmare on Elm Street movie. Anyway, a bit of backstory for this one. The Nightmare on Elm Street franchise has been going on for a long time. It was one of the most popular horror films franchise ever. But of course, as the 80s ended and the 90s started, Freddy was becoming less and less popular. So they decided they had no choice but to kill him off. And apparently this hit New Line pretty big, considering they actually had a funeral for Freddy Krueger. Man. Imagine having to miss a funeral for a loved one to attend a fake funeral for a serial killer. That's pretty sad. Wait, did I say sad? I meant fucking hilarious. So Freddy was dead, unfortunately. But with horror becoming more pop culture and Freddy Krueger officially making his comeback when Freddy vs. Jason was coming out, New Line realized that they had to keep Freddy relevant until then. So they decided to go to the man that started it all, Wes Craven. They wanted Wes to make another Nightmare on Elm Street movie that would continue after Freddy's dead. In preparation, Wes watched all the previous Freddy movies and realized, well, this is a fucking mess. So he decided to start fresh by doing a new movie that would completely ignore the previous films. It would be sort of a semi-reboot, which is the movie we're talking about. So let's talk about it. Heather Langenkamp plays, well, Heather Langenkamp. Yes, the actress that played Nancy in the Nightmare movies. Anyway, she's been having nightmares about a demon that looks similar to Freddy Krueger. As it turns out, Wes Craven, yes, the director and writer of the original Freddy movies, and who is also playing himself in this movie, has also been having nightmares. Why? Well, it's revealed that Freddy Krueger is actually a demon, in real life is a demon that takes the form of anything of popular storytellings. And the only way to keep it at bay is by writing a fictional version of it in storytelling media, which was the Nightmare on Elm Street movies. That was what was keeping the demon at bay, but because the movies were getting worse and worse, and eventually them ending it, the demon has awoken from his long-awaited slumber and has taken the form of Freddy Krueger. So Heather has to once again take the role of Nancy in making a new Nightmare on Elm Street movie to defeat Freddy, which doesn't make any sense considering Nancy got killed in Nightmare 3. And yes, they keep mentioning they killed off Freddy, but they never keep mentioning they killed off Nancy. Weird. Some other actors worth noting is we once again get John Saxon playing himself. What this movie does is that it sort of does a sort of meta behind the scenes look. We look at Heather's life as a celebrity and also being in the Nightmare movies, being harassed by a supposed stalker who, is the Freddy entity. She also has a husband named Chase, who is a special effects artist, and a son named Dylan. And now while Heather was in real life married to a special effects artist and they had a son named Dylan, now they are not actually playing themselves in this movie. Instead, her son Dylan is played by that kid from the Pet Sematary movies. I didn't bother to learn his name. I'm sorry. Please don't go busting my ass. Anyway, we also get an appearance from Robert Englund a few times, playing both himself, Freddy Krueger on a talk show, and of course the Freddy entity. Of course, you can't really have a character similar to Freddy Krueger without Englund playing it. Trust me, they've tried, and it doesn't work out. I'll get to that soon. So, I'm pretty sure you want to know, what do I think of Wes Craven's New Nightmare? In my opinion, I actually like this movie. It's one of the better Nightmare movies, and it finally went back to the form of Freddy actually being scary. Yes, I know this demon isn't really Freddy Krueger, but it takes his form, and he looks cool. It has like the pale skin, the demon-like face, it has the long coat, and the organic bladed hand, which, fun fact here, the trench coat was actually a pitch idea that Wes Craven had, considering there was an homeless man living outside his house wearing a trench coat that scared the hell out of him. As for the organic bladed hand, which was a reference to the original posters, which, hold on. If you look right here, you can see that the glove sort of has an organic, mechanical, bladed hand look to it. It's strange. It's very strange. Anyway. It also shows the hard time being a celebrity who starred in horror films as a child. Heather constantly has to look after her son while also doing a bunch of other stuff, being a celebrity, and also having a hard time with her son watching the horror Nightmare movies, even though she's been in them. Weird. Now, with that said, there aren't that many kills in the movie. I mean, there are, we just don't really get to see them. The opening kills are in dreams, and of course it turns out they were real. Heather's husband gets killed, and one of the more notable deaths is when Dylan's babysitter, Julie, gets killed, and it's in the exact same way Tina died in the first Nightmare on Elm Street. The only difference is we actually get to see the Freddy entity swinging her around. But with that said, the film is pretty scary. There's really some suspenseful moments, and you barely see the Freddy entity in the movie, which is another way of building up suspense. The scene where Wes is explaining to Heather how the whole thing works is probably one of the best scenes in the movie. Now, with that said, there are some setbacks. Like I said, the gore, there aren't that many kills. The gore is passé, I guess. It's not perfect. Some of the characters make some really dumb decisions, and Wes Craven, not to be disrespectful to Mr. Craven, but his acting, not perfect. But what are you gonna do? He's not really an actor, he's a director. Now, something interesting worth noting is that in the script, it was written in the script that there would be a series of earthquakes around LA. But the weird thing is, while they were filming the movie, there actually were a series of earthquakes going on in LA. It's kind of strange when you think about it, huh? With that said, wrapping up, after the Freddy entity has kidnapped Dylan and taken him to the dream world, Heather follows them, taking the role of Nancy and using the opportunity to defeat the Freddy entity by shoving him in an oven and burning him alive. Don't ask me how that works. The film ending with Heather and her son going back to the real world, with them reading the script of the movie, with a one note saying from Wes saying, "Thank you, Heather, for being able to play Nancy one last time." Wes Craven's New Nightmare is a great follow-up, but it's one hell of a way to redo it again. Unfortunately, as we all know, this was the final time we would see anything from Wes Craven. There was Freddy vs. Jason in 2003, but unfortunately we're not looking at that movie just yet. But unfortunately, the film we will be looking at next time will be the 2010 remake of A Nightmare on Elm Street. I am so sorry. Until then, I'm Kobe the Reviewer, and damn it, I don't have a good quote to say from the movie. Oh, bye.